My girlfriend is attacked by thieves at the bar. I try to defend her, but it's 4 against 1. However, karma will take care of them. I sat in a quiet booth, toward the back of Sakers, a local bar and grill on the outskirts of my hometown of Plimaloo, Arkansas, near Lake Nimmer. It was August 23rd, and it was 8:30. I knew the ritual. This was the 6th consecutive year that I had sat in this booth and waited. I waited for the clock to strike 8:39 so I could tell him all about the year and maybe say goodbye. Looking slowly around the interior of the place, Jacob Byron, known locally as the Bear, was performing his duties on the top of the White Oak Bar. He was the owner, barman, and bouncer of the establishment. I looked beyond where he was standing, my eyes drawn by the methodical movement of colors in the windows behind him. For as long as I could remember, the Budweiser sign with its garish red neon competed for attention with the blue and gold Coors sign in the 2 front windows. It always seemed to me that the 2 signs made the front of the place look like a strange year-round Christmas display. My eyes returned to the Bear, who at first glance seemed to be carelessly wiping the rag over the flat surface, but upon closer inspection, you could notice the meticulous, loving, almost tender care in everything he did for his establishment. I laughed a little. My father had once told me that it was as if the bar were his wife, and he strived to ensure her happiness in everything he did. I noticed the young people in the first booth near the bar as they got up to leave. Probably a summer romance. I took them both for no more than high school freshmen or sophomores. That left the guy in the booth, 2 ahead and in front of me, as the only other person in the place. A stranger, which was not unusual for this time of year. It was a very quiet night, which I was happy about. Sighing deeply, I took a sip of my beer, the first legal one the Bear had ever served me. I was about to start my senior year of high school when my life changed. Back then, I was just a young woman beginning to grow into my femininity. I had gone from being a shy, thin girl with straight black hair down to my shoulders and dark brown eyes to the way my body had developed. Now, at 24 years old, my body was slender and well-defined. I had worked hours on toning it. I was 1.7 meters tall, weighed 58 kilograms, and although I did not have a model's body, I turned heads in any crowd. The jet black hair that flowed aimlessly to the middle of my back and the dark, deep eyes were the only clues to my Cherokee indigenous heritage, something I was and had always been extremely proud of. As I sat in quiet contemplation, the memories came cascading back unprovoked, enveloping me like the humidity on a hot summer day. I let myself go, allowing myself to go back to that night 6 years ago. "Grebs, wait." I heard my best friend, Curson Tenney, yell to me. "Well, hurry up, slowpoke," I replied, laughing. Curson had been my best friend and companion since his family had moved to the farm across the road when we were both 6 years old. Grebs was his private nickname for me, and I only allowed him to call me that. Curson was a nice guy, though a bit thin. In fact, he was well-muscled. He was 1.8 meters tall, weighed 79 kilograms, had light brown hair, and bright hazel eyes. He and I had done everything together while growing up. Fishing, hunting, cooking, cleaning the house, playing baseball, basketball, and tennis, as well as playing cards. We had joined 4-H, learned to ride horses, and care for livestock together. With our parents, who were also good friends, we had hiked, camped, canoed, and learned about nature. During the summer, both of us kids looked forward to the family camping trips at Lake Nimmer, just 8 or 10 kilometers from our homes. The lake offered us friends the opportunity to explore and discover a whole new universe in a paradise-like setting. That special year had been a turning point in our relationship. We were both getting ready to enter our sophomore year of high school in the fall. By June, we realized we had fallen in love with each other. We both understood that what we now felt was much deeper and richer than it had been before. Our parents supported the relationship once they found out their children had become a couple. Neither set of parents understood exactly how deep the bond between us had become. Curson was the first boy to take my hand, the first to hug me and whisper lovers' secrets in my ear, and he gave me my first kiss, as well as my first French kiss. In early August of that same year, we gave ourselves to each other for the first time and became lovers, it happening under our favorite tree in the Tenney's field. True to his style, Curson hugged me after that first time, assuring me of his love. Then he asked me in all sincerity if that meant he could take me to the homecoming dance in October and the spring prom. Before I could answer, he asked if that meant we were boyfriend and girlfriend. When I said yes to all three questions, all the boy could do was smile from ear to ear. I thought it was so cute. By the night of August 23rd, we young lovers had found time to be together, and, for some reason, it had seemed very special, almost as if we had become one that afternoon. Since both our families were enjoying the last week-long camping trip by the lake of the summer, we asked our parents if we could go to Sakers for a root beer. My father said, "Okay." As we walked toward the small bridge that separated the campgrounds from the bar and grill area, Kirsten stopped and kissed me. There was an intense passion in that kiss, mixed with incredible tenderness. When we parted, I asked, "Not that I mind, but what was that for?" "Since we made love, I cannot believe how close I feel to you. I mean, every time has been wonderful, but today was so beautiful that I just wanted to crawl inside your skin and be a part of you." Kirsten's smile lit up my whole world. I pushed his hair out of his eyes. "I know, it was like that for me too today." I kissed him again, just to see his eyes sparkle. Just as we were crossing a bridge about 400 meters from the bar, Kirsten kissed me again. We exchanged "I love yous," and he said, "I have to pee. You go on ahead. I will catch up in a moment." I walked aimlessly along the path by the river toward the bar. The low branches brushed against my head and face. I waved to Betsy, Mr. Bear's niece, who was sitting on the back steps of the tavern. Suddenly, I screamed as rough hands grabbed me. "Look what I got, Tommy. After we rob the store, we will have something to play with tonight." A sick voice echoed in my ear. Another voice said, "Look on the steps," another one. I bit the hand that covered my mouth and screamed, "Betsy, run for help, quick." At the same time, my captor shouted, "You little bitch." I saw a hand move toward my face and heard Kirsten's voice shouting something, and then everything went black. I woke up in the hospital about an hour later. My mom and dad were with me, crying. "I am so sorry, dear. Your attackers are dead, and so is Kirsten. He died tonight. He was a hero, daughter. He was trying to protect you." My father swallowed hard. "He saved Betsy, the bear's niece. She told me he was mortally wounded while they were attacking you tonight. He was protecting his friend, the girl he loved. I am so sorry, daughter." I tried to understand. I tried to speak, but my mouth would not work. I could only cry as I hugged my dad and mom, who wrapped their arms around me to comfort me in my moment of loss. Later that night, Kirsten's parents arrived, and all I could do was hug them and cry even more. At that moment, no one realized how devastating the loss would be. I trembled as I returned to the present. I looked around. No one was looking at me. I was crying silently. I looked at my watch and noticed I still had 5 minutes. I sighed and let my mind wander again. I remembered that over the next month, I slowly pieced together the circumstances of the minutes after I lost consciousness. Betsy told me, "You screamed, then the guy holding you hit you on the head, and you fell to the ground. One of the guys started coming towards me when Kirsten attacked them within, or he had picked up from a boat someone had left near the path. He yelled, 'Get away from them.' Then he hit the guy attacking me in the head with the oar, giving me the time I needed to go inside and get my uncle." Mr. Bear told me. He responded to his niece's screams, grabbing a shotgun. Then, he sent 2 of his customers, whom he knew had rifles in their cars, to find them and surround both sides of the bar. Looking out the back window, he saw Kirsten charge at the 2 remaining men, hitting the first man, the one we later learned had hit you, in the knee with the edge of the oar. Then he turned and hit the last guy in the ribs with the edge of the oar. His attacks were surprising and brutal, and both men moved as fast as they could down the path, away from you two. Kirsten quickly looked around, finding no more danger. He dropped the oar and then started to lean towards you. Suddenly, he stopped and seemed to stiffen. Then he stood up and took a step toward the bar. Mr. Bear continued with a clear lump in his throat. I watched in horror and saw the first guy from whom Kirsten had saved Becky. He was now standing with his right hand covering a bleeding wound on the side of his head that he had received a moment before. His left arm, extended, pointing towards Kirsten. The man was holding a gun. Kirsten took a step towards him, "I think to get between you and the gunman." The man shouted something and then fired twice. Both bullets hit him in the stomach. I moved to grab the doorknob and looked at the clock. It was 8:39. Then I threw open the back door. The guy who had shot Kirsten looked towards me, then started to aim his gun at me. I discharged both barrels into his head and chest. He did not stand a chance. As I started to go out to get to Curson, who was now on his knees with one arm supporting himself and the other around his stomach, suddenly 2 bullets slammed into the doorframe next to me. It seemed the other 2 thugs were shooting at me. I went back into the bar. The old guys I had sent to get their guns opened fire with their hunting rifles while I reloaded the shotgun. There was a long silence when a lone "I surrender" echoed in the night, and one of the 2 remaining troublemakers came into the light with his hands on his head. We quickly discovered that one of the partners with the rifles had hit his mark. 2 of them were now dead. No one moved for a second, and then the night lit up with the sounds of sirens. It seems Becky had called the sheriff. One of my friends took control of the man who had surrendered. Becky and I reached you 2 a moment later. Curson had just said something to you. I leaned down, lifting him from his knees, supporting him against my chest so Becky could place some of the towels she had brought over the wounds to stop the blood flow. He looked up and asked me to tell you goodbye and that he loved you and knew you loved him. Your parents had heard the commotion at their campsite and ran towards us just as the sheriff arrived. He lasted until 8:51, but he was able to say "I love you" and goodbye to his parents. They were holding him when he died. Your parents reached you at that moment and were holding you as life left him. You were holding his hand when he died. Honey, Mr. Bear concluded his story. I opened my eyes as I whispered, Curson, I wish you had held on so I could have said goodbye to you. It was 8:39. I felt a slight twinge of regret, but for some reason, I felt more comforted this year than before. Well, I thought, time heals all wounds. I sat and told him all about the year, what had happened at my house and at his parents' house, including the wonderful news that my parents had been approved to adopt the twins they had been foster parents to for the last 3 years. Also, to everyone's surprise, Curson's mom had allowed me to go into Curson's old room, pack everything up, repaint, and redecorate, since the twins were girls. I ran out of things to say. I just sat and thought about my best friend and how much I missed him. Then, it was over, at least for another year, and I could move on with my life. Becky waited until I sighed and started to lift my head. Then, she slid into the bench across from me. I looked up with tear-stained cheeks and smiled at my friend. Becky said, Hello. Hello, you. Are you okay now, too? Yes, for another year. Gabriel, I have been here with you for 6 years. You have never told me why you cannot move on. I have asked myself the same thing for these 6 years, Becky. I was the only one who could not say goodbye, to see him go. I will not see him again to be able to do it until I cross to the other side, at the end of my life. I know it is stupid, but I needed, to say goodbye. Believe me, Becky, it gets easier to live with afterwards, but I am healing. I smiled at my friend. See you tomorrow for breakfast. Becky commented, I have to go home to my husband. She got up to leave through the back door, where her truck was parked, and left. I sighed and dropped my head into my hands, elbows on the table. The tears flowed easily as I felt him with me once again. Sitting with my head in my hands, I did not see the 2 drunk college kids who came in to buy a couple of cases of beer, nor that they had noticed me. Bear was outside, making sure the other 6 college troublemakers stayed in the truck, while Carla, the regular night shift waitress, watched the cash drawer and prepared orders. The 2 Romeos staggered over and sat down with me. One sat across from me and the other next to me, putting his arm around my shoulders, pulling me close to him. Startled, I let out a scream. What the hell do you want? Get that arm off of me. Get out of here and leave me alone. I was absolutely stunned by the man's audacity. The man across the table slurred. Come on, baby, you do not need to cry over him. We are going to fix everything now. Stop playing hard to get. He winked at the other guy, who was still holding me. First, get off me, I said, poking the guy in the ribs. I moved his arm as I pushed him out of the booth, and, second, that is the lousiest southern accent and the worst pickup line I have ever heard in my life. Third, get out of here and leave me alone. Both men fell silent, suddenly. Then, the guy sitting across from me quickly slapped me hard across the cheek. The unexpected move left me bewildered, and I moved into the corner of the booth, with my arms close to my body and my hands near my face for protection. The man who had fallen to the floor crawled back, placing his knee on the booth seat. So you like it rough? Well, I like it rough too. He spat the words as if they were physical barbs. Then, he lunged towards me. I screamed, no. The man stopped inches from my face, then looked at me with obvious pain, his mouth open and no words coming out of the foul-smelling cavern that now dominated his face. He seemed to be frozen in place. Slowly, he slid back to the end of the booth. The man let out a low groan of pain mixed with terror, muttering, "Balls. Oh my God, he has got me by the balls." He lowered his head to the bench and just trembled. I looked up and saw a tall man, of average build. I noticed a gentle look in his eyes when our gazes briefly met. He smiled and nodded back. He looked at the man sitting across from me, now quickly sober. The tall man's voice was firm but had a distinct edge. "All right, boys, this lady has made it very clear she does not want your attention. Furthermore, she has asked you, not once, but twice to leave her alone. So I will leave the gruesome details to your imagination if you decide to challenge her. Now get out." The stranger released his grip, then forcefully punched his friend in the crotch with his fist. The man leaned forward and slid under the table, letting out a low, almost inaudible groan. The guy across from me jumped up to grab the stranger, but was met with a hard, well-placed left jab that hit him on the bridge of his nose, splattering blood on both antagonists as the drunk student fell weakly back into the booth. The stranger looked at me. "Excuse the mess, ma'am. It would probably be best if you moved seats after I escort our two guests to their car." All I could do was nod my head in agreement. The man gathered the two thugs and dragged them to the bar, where they picked up the two 12-packs of beer, and he hauled them to their waiting truck. The boys peeled out of the parking lot, only to be immediately stopped by not one, but 3 sheriff's cars. It seemed Carla had made a call to alert them. When the man returned inside, Carla handed him a damp cloth to clean himself up. He returned the cloth once he was done, nodding gratefully to the woman. I realized she was a friend sitting at my table. "I am Gabriel," I introduced myself. "Nice to meet you, Gabriel." "I am Kenny," he said, shaking my hand. "Thanks for your help." "You are welcome. No one should be treated like that. I am sorry for those 2 idiots." "Do you come here often?" "Yes, when I am in town deer hunting." I smiled. The man's gentleness disarmed me. I found it easy to talk to him and was surprised at how quickly I was drawn to him, ending up telling him all about Curson. He was surprised by the depth of the commitment we both had for each other. When he said, "I am truly sorry for the loss that all the people involved have suffered," I did not know why, but I felt he meant it. When the bar closed, I asked where his car was parked. He pointed to a late 90s Mustang. I turned and asked Kenny if he would mind taking me home. My raw emotions, combined with the beer I had drunk, made it too risky to drive. As we drove, I pointed out the house where Curson had lived. Kenny observed the place with genuine interest. Surprisingly, he stopped at my parents' driveway before I told him where it was. He walked me to the door. When I politely asked, "Would you like to come in?" standing to the side of the porch, with a sad, distant look in his eyes, he replied, "I do not think I can." I stood by the front door, a little bewildered by his answer. Then I noticed a tear running down his cheek. "Are you okay?" I asked softly. He nodded. Then he sighed. "Do you like how I would have looked? I guess this is more or less how it should have been at our age, right?" I looked at the man in front of me, confusion evident in my voice as I asked, "What do you mean?" The man looked at me with emotion clearly visible in his face as he poured his heart out. "I have missed you so much, Grebs, and I did not want to leave you that night, especially without saying goodbye. I do not know what you did, but they sent me back for a few brief moments, and that assignment is running out. Oh, my Grebs." The man sighed and let out a soft sob, continuing, "The Lord knows how much I love you." An impossible hope sprang up in me when I saw the man in front of me as he truly was. Moving quickly towards him, I grabbed him and fell into his embrace. Then I pulled him towards me, and our lips met, both lost in the moment. When we parted, I looked into his eyes. "Curson, is it you? Are you here, hugging me? How is this possible?" "I do not know, but I think it is so we can say a proper goodbye. I could not leave you. That is all." He smiled the way I had always loved, with that caught-in-the-act look of a child. The night air, which had been hot and suffocating, suddenly became cool and refreshing. As I looked at him, I suddenly realized I had something very special to show him. "Curson, I need to go get something. If I go inside quickly to get it, will you still be here when I get back?" He thought and acted as if he were listening to something. Then he nodded and said, "Hurry." I flew into the house, opened my parents' bedroom door without knocking. My mom and dad, who were reading, looked up at their daughter with wide eyes. No time for explanations. Call Mom and Dad Tenny. Tell them they have to come here in the next 2 to 3 minutes. There is a miracle on our front porch. Hurry. When I left the room, my father grabbed the phone. Something in my voice told him not to ask questions. After calling them, he and his wife shot out of bed, put on their robes, and ran down the stairs. They saw me fly out the front door ahead of them. Now why would she have woken him up? They wondered. Kirsten was stunned when I returned, the screen door slamming behind me. I was holding a child, a boy, from the looks of it, about 5 or 6 years old. Kirsten noticed I was trembling as I crossed the old front porch towards him. It still needs painting, flashed through his mind. I sat on the swing. The sleepy child hugged me. You did leave me something, Kirsten. You left me our son, growing in my belly. And this beautiful child is Kirsten Wayne Tenney, your son, my love, our son. Kirsten was speechless, as were my parents, who had come out of the house and were now standing on their porch, looking at a young man on their front porch who had been killed 6 years ago, on this very night. Kirsten looked at both of them. Could I have a hug? I need to say goodbye, and I do not have much time left. Both my parents slowly walked past me and my grandson to face him. Mrs. Wayne hugged Kirsten right away, quickly followed by her husband. After a few moments in the embrace, Mrs. Wayne commented, Now, my son, go meet your son. He asks about you a lot. Kirsten nodded and knelt in front of me and extended a trembling hand to touch his son. The boy looked at the man in front of him. Are you my real dad? Kirsten replied, Yes, son, I am your dad. Kirsten opened his arms, allowing his son to come to him for their first hug. His son hugged him, smiling. I prayed to God for a long time to send you back and help Mom not be sad so you can be happy like me. I know a bad man hurt you and God has to have you in heaven so you do not get hurt. I love you, Dad, and I will take care of Mom for you. Kirsten thought he sounded very grown up. He was very proud of his son. My son, my precious child. I love you too, and I love your mom very much. Thank you for taking care of her, because I cannot, but do not worry. I will watch over you both, even when you cannot see or hear me. Now, let me tell you a secret that only we can know. Do you promise? I promise, the boy replied, making an exaggerated X over his small chest. Kirsten smiled and returned the gesture. I promise that when it is time for Mom to go be with God, a long time from now, I will come for her and take her to heaven, okay? Okay, Dad, was his proud reply. Now, I need you to go to Grandma and Grandpa, because I need to give Mom enough love to last until the end of her life. Kissing each other, father and son parted with an I love you and a goodbye, exchanged for the last time in this life. Grabbing my love while we were still sitting on the porch, we both clung to each other, allowing the moment to completely fill us. Feeling 2 other pairs of arms surrounding us, I looked up at the surprised faces. Mom, Dad, I said, as my parents also witnessed the miracle of a child's faith. For a few brief moments, 3 families said the necessary things to each other to heal. Then, at Kirsten's insistence, they said their final goodbyes. Hugs and kisses were exchanged. I took Kirsten's hand and walked with him to the road, knowing it would be our last walk for a while. Kissing me forcefully, Kirsten took me in his arms. Grebs, I want you to go out and experience life, everything it has to offer. Find the things you want to do, go to the places you want to see, find love. Accept it. In return, give of yourself as much as you can. But remember that when it is all over, I will come for you, and, for a long time, we will share our love only with God, because I am waiting for you. They kissed one last time, and then, looking deeply into each other's eyes, they said goodbye. I hugged him and closed my eyes. After feeling his arms loosen around me, I slowly pulled away from him. A few moments later, I slowly opened my eyes, looked around, and he was gone. Sighing, I heard the mailbox door creak. I walked over and looked inside to find 6 envelopes, one addressed to each of the 6 members of the 2 families. No one would ever reveal what he had written to the others, and no one ever asked. I took the letters. As I turned towards the house, I heard his voice in the wind, near my ear. Goodbye. I love you, Grebs. A single tear fell down my cheek. I love you too. Goodbye. I heard his sigh, and then the sounds of the night returned to my mind. I stood there and cried for a few minutes. But there was no sadness, only joy. The joy filled me completely, and I had to let it out in tears. Looking to the east, I saw the first light of a new day's dawn break on the horizon. My heart was light, as were my steps. I turned and walked towards the house, ready to face a future that was suddenly bright and promising. 2 weeks after my 83rd birthday, I lay in my hospital bed, my body failing, waiting patiently for my best friend to come and take me to my new home. My eldest son, Kirsten, now 65 years old, was in the room, talking to me and reading me stories while I rested. He looked up when the room door opened and found his father standing there, looking almost as he remembered him from all those years ago. Kirsten stood up and his dad said, "Hello. I am sorry I cannot hug you. I do not have a physical body for this trip." "I understand, Dad. Thank you for taking care of your mom for me. I love you so much more for that." "You are welcome, Dad. I want to know something. You will be, son. We will both be back for you and your lovely wife, but now your mom and I have a date. So say goodbye to her." Mother and son said what they needed to say to each other, and upon returning to his seat near the window, he watched as his father approached the bed. Kirsten looked at me. I had a big smile on my face. "Are you ready?" "Yes, love. I have waited patiently for you for a long time." Taking me by the hand, Kirsten gently lifted me from the bed towards him. My son watched in awe as my spirit rose from my body. I seemed to be 20 years old. We two lovers embraced, said goodbye to our son, and then walked out the door as the heart monitors sounded their triumphant call. Another person released into eternity. Kirsten sat in the chair in the corner of the room while the hospital staff made a valiant effort to save the old woman. Finally, the doctor said it was too late. Kirsten clearly heard, "Greb, wait," followed by "Hurry up, slowpoke," and the laughter of small children as they ran through the meadows on hot summer days, fading into the distance. Kirsten smiled. He gathered his things to sign the proper documentation, make calls to his 3 half-siblings, and then return home to try to explain this to his wife.